Well, Dempsey, welcome to the World Class Dads podcast, brother.
Thanks for having me, Brad. I'm excited to
Yeah.
be here.
So you came onto my radar on the same day my wife told me I should have you on the podcast, and my mom told me I should have you on the podcast. So I'm like, all right, let's check it out. And I think it was when you were on the Today Show or Good Morning America. One of
Today show.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And your song, The Best Parts of Me, you were promoting on there and debuted on there. And I listened to it, I watched the video, I got all emotional, and I'm like, because I have a daughter, our only one right now, and she's 1.5. And so I listened to that song and I'm like, yep, I gotta talk to this guy if he's open to it. So I appreciate you carving out the time.
Yeah, all any dad can connect with that song. Like I get so many comments about that, and a bunch of people actually are using it for their father-daughter dance at their wedding. And I mean, there's no bigger compliment than that. Like the
That's
biggest
so
day of your
cool.
daughter's life, and you want to have my song in it. That's just awesome to me.
Dude, that's awesome. So, and I was actually, I emailed you this morning, but I've been just jamming to your music in general, that song and the other ones. I really like Mississippi Mud, your new song, dude. That's a great jam.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
Yeah. So how long have you been writing your own music and been just in the music game?
Well, I've been writing songs probably since I was, I guess, a teenager. But all of this really started for me recently, about 2 years ago, because I had another viral video, actually, another video involving my son. So what
Okay.
happened was, you know, well, I'll start from the beginning. Basically, I used to write songs a lot when I was in college and play guitar and stuff, but I never really performed in front of crowds or did stuff like that, even though like I wanted to pursue music, but that aspect always scared me, getting
Mm.
in front of people and performing. So it kind of just stayed a hobby, and I would play at home and write songs. And once I met my wife and we got married and had kids, you just don't have as much time anymore, not nearly as
Right.
much time. So I had a job then, and with
What were
all
you,
of
what were
that,
you doing for the job?
well, I still have the same job.
Okay.
I'm an operator at a chemical plant.
Got it.
So I work shift work. I work crazy hours. Like it's a grind sometimes, but I
Yeah.
make. But so it was just a hobby where every now and then I would just take my guitar out, play a few songs and sing along with the family sometimes. And this one night, I was uh I was singing "Beautiful Crazy" by Luke Combs, and my son grabbed his rock band guitar. He was 2 years old at the time, so I guess it's my rock band guitar. But anyway, he gets up there and he starts jamming along with me and singing with me. And my wife videoed it, and that thing went viral on Facebook. It had like 20 million views in
Wow.
like a couple months. So right after that, people started asking me, if I had any more music or any other way they could listen to some more of my stuff. And I was like, man, I really don't have anything. So I started to record myself doing covers on YouTube and posting those on there, and they started getting more and more traction. And then I started writing songs again and getting back into it. And then I started playing live shows. For I think my the first show that I ever played, they had probably like 200 people there, because I guess people were just curious from all of my videos.
That's
They just wanted to
awesome.
see what it was like. So like this is my first show, and like I was always afraid of this. So I'm like, oh crap, but I made it through it, and like every show I do, it gets easier, and I'm getting more comfortable up there. And so it's just kind of built from there. And then uh, I wrote that song for my daughter. That was the first song that I wrote since all of this started, and it was never really supposed to be what it has become right now. I just kind of wrote it for her and
Yeah.
recorded it, and I really wanted it to just be for her. And then, of course, that reaction from her happened, and I posted that on social media, and that video just that was a whole nother level. I mean, Dana White posted it on his Instagram. That's really what got it going big. It already had about 40 million or so views on TikTok from different places, but then he took it, put it on Instagram, and then it just blew up from there. That's when the Today Show happened and Mario Lopez happened, and he invited me to Vegas to to see a UFC fight, and it's just like been a whirlwind because Dana White was like, I was a huge fan of the UFC, still am. So when it was him sharing it, I'm just looking at my phone and I'm like, dude, there's no way this is happening
That's
right
awesome.
now. Yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride, but that's pretty much my story.
That's crazy, man. So it's been like 2 years since that first viral video.
Yeah.
That is a wild ride because that is not a long time.
No.
And also, I mean, you're fucking so good. There's a thing. It seems like you've been on stage, you've been recording. I would not have guessed that. I mean, obviously you've been playing and singing for longer, but it seems like you've been doing it like on the professional level for a much longer time. So that is epic. And I'm very excited to have you on this podcast so that when in a year from now, when you're playing at the CMA, I can be like, dude was on my podcast. Yeah. That's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit and just for your background, one of the reasons I started this podcast was I've always been professionally ambitious and have dreams of making a big impact in helping people and just doing big things and have big goals, which it sounds like you do too with your music. But as soon as family's always been important to me and my relationship with my wife. But as soon as my daughter came into the picture, I realized like, all right, this is tough. Like you just said, like we were talking about earlier, like so much time is required to be a present dad and to be that guy who is there for his family, as well as pursue those extracurriculars, if you will, on the professional side. And so how do you, because you said you're working your job still, you're pursuing this career in music, which is off to an epic start, but also you look at your Instagram, it's all about your kids. I mean, your 2 viral videos have been about your family and your kids, like obviously being a dad's important to you. Right. When you think about balancing, these different aspects of your life or integrating them, how do you approach it?
It's really tough.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, before all the music stuff, it was a lot easier to do. I just had the job, I had them, I had a few hobbies, I like to work out and stuff. But once this happened, then you actually have to plan out your time and think about the way that you want to spend it. And I've come to the point where I have to literally wake up in the morning and look at my day and say, okay, these are the things that I need to get done. But also I want to make sure I have time in the evening to spend with my kids because, I've made relationships with a bunch of people lately. And so I try to learn from different people. And one thing that one guy taught me was, I guess I've always known this, but he said, it's not really the amount of time you spend with your kids, but the quality of it. Mm-hmm. So if you can take an hour out of a day and just completely focus on them and not have any distractions, which is really difficult because I always in the back of my mind feel like I have something else that I need to be doing at this point.
Right.
That I'm, that's not getting done. But just doing my best to focus all my attention on them and make sure that I'm giving them that quality time, because I feel like it's extremely important because, they're going to grow up learning from you. And if you don't teach them, the world's going to teach them. And that's not what I want to happen. I want to make sure I instill the right values in them and make sure that they know what it takes to be mentally healthy and strong and individuals. And so I just try to make it as much of a focus as I can to block out some time for them and just be able to just be present with them,
Yeah, no, I feel you. I have the same challenges. And, my wife and I are fortunate right now that we're both able to work from home and have been over this last year, but there's 2 days a week where our daughter's home with us when we're both working. And I really recognize it in those times where when one of us is with her and we kind of tag team it, but you're working and I'm in a sales role and emails are rolling in and I'm trying to, be present with her. And there's such a difference when you're really present with your kids and you're sitting there and there's nothing else and you can just focus on them and they know they're holding your attention and vice versa. And there's such a difference between that and when you're somewhere else mentally. That's been a big struggle for me. So do you have any, as you're kind of learning this and going through it, have you learned any tips or tricks, or is there anything that you do to try to stay in that moment when you are with your kids and when you are with the family?
Yeah. So one thing that I never used to do before, but I actually started like reading books and listening to audiobooks just about like different ways to improve myself, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a person who likes to stay the same. I always try to get better.
That's awesome.
So one thing is learning how to meditate and
Mm,
be able to, which it just kind of teaches you to focus on one thing, just focus on your breath, and doing that on a daily basis, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, is really kind of training my brain to be able to just let go of everything else and just be there. And I think that has helped me a ton, just to be able to do that. And I'm actually teaching my daughter how to do that right now, just to be able to, because nowadays these kids have these iPads and tablets and phones, and everything is always distracting them. And I feel like, it's not good for them. They need that time to be able to just learn how to be bored, or learn how to, soothe themselves when they don't have anything in front of their face. So it's a learning experience for both of us. So
yeah.
I'm learning it, and then I'm trying to teach her and my son as well. Well, he's 5 years old and he's just a little maniac. So kind of hard to teach him anything yet, but
Yeah.
she's a little
Well,
older and she's getting it.
what resources are you using to practice meditating or to learn that?
So I got some audiobooks from Audible, and one book that I actually listened to is called The Power of Now.
Oh yeah.
You listen to that one?
Huge Eckhart Tolle fan. Yeah.
Yes. So that, just the way he explains things is just like, I never really thought about it that way. I guess like you only ever have the present moment. Like you
Hmm.
never have the past or the future. You just only have the now. So it's kind of like an eye opener.
Yeah, that's awesome. I first read that book on my honeymoon actually, and I feel like it made like it's almost a book that I want to read or revisit or listen to before any like experience like that, because it made me slow down. And even if I may have only read like 3 chapters of it on that trip, but just like taking little piece of it made me realize like, oh, I'm in this moment now, and just enjoy that trip and the experiences and that time. And it's cemented in my memory so much more just because I was like living in it, because those passages from that book were just helping me to do it. So I love to hear that's one of the ones you're using.
Yeah, and if you don't do stuff like that, then you end up waking up one day and your kids are grown up and you're like, man, what happened? Like I
Mm,
missed all of that. I don't remember spending a lot of time with them. And it's because of that. I feel like you're there, but you're just not really mentally there. So you're like you said, it gets cemented in your memory, and if you're really present, that's what it'll do.
yeah, absolutely.
And so will they.
So when it comes to your music and writing new music, do you have a process, or is it when it just comes to you? How does that work for you?
Sometimes it just comes to me. Sometimes I write music in the craziest places, like when I'm cutting grass, and it's just like, if it's a mindless activity that I'm just doing, I'm able to do it a lot better. Like I actually write music better doing that than sitting in this room right here with a guitar. So I'll come up with a guitar riff and I'll start to, come up with a melody. And once that sticks in my head, I'm able to kind of write from there. But most of my songs start with the first line of the song. I don't
Mm,
know if that's how a lot of people write, but that's just how, like, I was never taught to write a song. So that's just how it happens to me. Like I'll literally play a little guitar riff and mumble some words sometimes. And I guess like the feeling of the chords or the music, that's what comes out. And then I kind of build it from there. Sometimes when the song starts, I have no idea what it's going to be about,
that's
honestly.
cool. That is awesome. I love hearing like I am not a musician. Music's not in my blood. I enjoy listening to it, but I have no practice with it myself. So I love hearing the artistic process. How did uh how did Best Part of Me come about? Was that kind of that process?
Well, that one, I knew I wanted to write that song for her.
Yeah.
And it was going to be, I knew so this was the first song that I wrote since starting all this back up. So,
Mm.
I mean, I've written some songs in the past. I had some songs on MySpace back in the day, and I
Oh yeah.
hope nobody ever hears those again. But, but so this one, I wanted it to be about her. So I kind of, yeah, that's kind of what I did. I came up with that little guitar riff and just started just feeling it, and just those first words came out, I could still remember the first time I saw, and just went from there basically.
So is
And
oh,
I
sorry,
kind
go
of
ahead.
like I wanted to have I wanted it to be about her and kind of really explain her as much as I could. So like that second verse where I talk about, dripping syrup on her dress and never leave the house if her hair is a mess. Like that's really her. She always likes to be dressed up, and she will not leave the house with her hair looking bad. I guess she gets that from her mom, but that's definitely her 100%.
It's funny. So I told you I had a podcast um, before this one, and I had a guy named, I don't know if you ever heard Rob Ricardo on it. He's a musician as well, and his biggest song on Spotify by far. He told me he was so surprised that it was the biggest one because it was so specific to his life. But I
Mhm.
think that's what people connect with, is that because there's so much authenticity in it
Yeah,
then that people really know, like it really connects with people because it's not just a broad, message for the masses. It's so specific, but then the people it hits with, like it hits home so hard.
right. There's so many people in life that have the same experience as you and feel those same things. So when something like that comes from the heart, most people can feel that, you know, it
Yeah.
comes through in your song.
That's cool. So is there pressure now to write a song at some point for your son?
Yeah. People ask me all the time, and I'm like, man, I don't know what kind of song I could write about him, because he's 100% boy. He likes to get dirty. He loves cars and dirt bikes, and he's only 5 years old. He just turned 5 yesterday, and he's already asking me for a dirt bike. I'm like, man, slow down. He already broke his arm one time on our couch. He broke one of my TVs from throwing a car in the air, and it's just, man, he's wild, but I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way with him.
Yeah, the it might be a little bit of a different tempoed song, but it
I,
sounds like there's some country music lyrics in there somewhere.
I can find them.
That's awesome. So, as you're kind of getting into, you know, this new journey, this new professional journey within the music space, are there any things that you struggled with early on? I totally, it's hit so home to me with the time management piece of you really have to be intentional about your time. Are there any struggles that you faced as you were learning your kind of the new normal of balancing these different careers and these different paths that now you learn from that experience and you're trying to integrate into your day to day?
Um, well, yeah, like I said, the live experience, the playing live was actually one of the hardest things for me to get over, and
Mm,
just because, you know, public speaking is like the biggest fear, number one fear
yeah.
in the world, which I can understand, and it's kind of the same thing when you're standing up there singing a song. And so like the meditating thing has actually helped me with that too, like being able to separate myself from my thoughts and kind of take myself out of that zone. So that that one thing that I did has helped me in so many aspects of my life. It's crazy.
Hmm.
And so when I first started doing this, I kind of got away from it, and just recently in the last few months I got back into it, and I'm just really seeing how much it helps you, because you have to practice it, because when you first start trying to meditate or do things like that, it's not easy. Your mind wanders and stuff, and you have to
Hmm.
actually practice it to get good at it. But it really rewires your brain. I mean, it's crazy how it works. I'm able to actually just step back like that. I'm able to snap myself out of things now and just be able to be there and be present. And I think that right there really has helped me in every aspect of this journey.
Dude, I love it. I had a very similar experience, even just recently, where I life is crazy, get away from spending time on myself and mindfulness and having that kind of quiet time. And it was just a couple weekends ago, I was just talking with my buddy about how I was kicking myself in the ass because I recognized that I had like a full Saturday just with my daughter. My wife had some stuff going on and she was going through a lot. She was just learning how to walk, and so that was fun, but she was super fussy and wanted to be held a lot. And I was just getting like impatient with it. And at the end of the day, I was being a whiny little bitch about it to my wife, like, oh my God, it was such a hard day for me. And then I just had to come back and realize like, oh, this is such a fleeting time. And I wasn't that present. I was just like, instead of just being there for her, how she needed me to be, I was thinking more about myself. And since then, that was like, I fortunately had a chance to like pivot and be like, okay, I think I just need to spend a little bit more time in the morning in quiet, not before everybody's up. And doing that has helped me kind of realign so that I'm not that whiny little kid. Because you can't be a whiny little kid and have a fussy baby.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, I do the same thing now. In the mornings, I try to just kind of take a little time. Well, in the mornings when I'm not working, because when I work days, I have to be at work at 4 o'clock in the morning. So
oh, damn.
It's a little bit different on those days. But days like today, I kind of try to wake up and have some time to myself and center myself, because as soon as I wake up, I have all these thoughts going through my head, like checking my phone, see what's going on all my social media. And, I'm into stocks and stuff too. But so I try to, get that out of my head and kind of center myself before anything so I can really be present with the kids in the morning while they're getting ready and just, being able to really be there.
Yeah, that's so important. Is there anything that you've learned over the past couple of years, or last 9 years in fatherhood in general, that if a new dad asked you for advice if you have one piece of advice for me as a new dad about to become a dad that you might impart on somebody who's just starting their fatherhood journey?
Phew, that's a tough one. I don't know if I have specific advice, but I guess I have certain things that I feel like as a dad, it's my job to teach these little kids how to be, mentally healthy adults, and how to, go through life being able to be independent and do things on their own. And I try to, I'm not the guy who will do everything for them. Like I will let them struggle while I'm around so that they can learn, to do things on their own. So I feel like later on in life, when I'm not around, that'll help them out, because when they really do need help, at least I'm here. But if they're doing something and they can't get it done, I'll just stand there and I'll be like, don't give up. You can do this. Like, this is something that you can do. And if you just give up and let me do it, you're never going to learn how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think little things like that have really helped them to learn how to be a little bit more independent, and just being there, being present. It all comes back to that. I think that is life changing right there. Being present in the moment as much as you can, as hard as it is. I mean, we're all human and we're all selfish by nature. So it's really hard to do, but if you can do it, you'll thank yourself later.
That's awesome. I think the advice to let your kids experience challenge and struggles and adversity, that could be that has been a recurring theme that guests bring up on this show. And it's been helpful for me because it's such a natural feeling as a dad. I think as soon as your kid is struggling with anything, you want to help them. Nobody wants to see their kid struggle or have a hard time with something, but you said it perfectly. That's going to be invaluable for them in the future, for them to be able to figure things out and know, even if you can't do it on the first try, you have it within you to be able to, if you stick with it. So I love that.
Absolutely. It helps them be more independent and, more confident in the things that they're doing. And that's another thing. I try not to, if they're doing something and they do it wrong, I try not to tell them, you're doing this wrong, this is not the right way to do it. I'll just let them do it. If they like what they're doing, like let's say my son, he likes to get himself dressed in the morning sometimes, and sometimes it's in some crazy outfits. But I'll just be like, yeah, man, if you like that, that's cool with me. We can wear
Yeah.
that. My wife is a little bit different. She was like, there's no way he's going out of the house that way. But when he's with me, I just let him do what he wants.
Yeah. She sees some pictures later on and is like, what, Will, what did you let him wear out here? That's awesome. What are some of your favorite activities to do with the kids?
uh, we live out in the woods, so we'll ride 4-wheelers. We have a trampoline. We like to go jump on the trampoline. Swimming. My parents live actually right down the street from me, and they have a swimming pool. They love to do that during the summer. We go on a lot of vacations as much as possible. And just little things here and there around the house as much as I can,
Mm,
basically.
yeah. You said earlier that one of the hobbies you have or things you enjoy is working out, and somebody can go on your Instagram and see you're pretty jacked. So that probably helps with some of those viral videos. But what role do you think your fitness levels and exercise and being strong and training has had, just in terms of, has that played any role for you as a dad, or is that translated at all into kind of your fatherhood style?
I don't really know because that's the way I've been my whole life. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be different if I didn't do that. But I also try to instill that in them, being healthy and actually it's weird because my parents always worked out, and my mom,
Mm,
she still to this day will work out every single morning. And she didn't teach me that. They didn't teach me that, but I guess I just learned from them. And it's like I can't stop now. It's not something,
right.
even with all of this going on, like I have to find a way just because I feel like it's part of me. And
Yeah.
I want them to have that too. Like I want them to understand that it's important to be healthy and not, you know, not get, what is the word, sedentary or anything like that.
Yeah.
Sit around watching TV all the time. Like I don't think that's good for you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think our kids model our behavior. So, a guy named Kyle Kingsbury on the show, and he said he sees my son sees that mom and dad are athletes and work out, and now I think his son was 4 or 5 at the time, and he could do 10 pull-ups or something crazy. And he's like, because he sees that, so that's what we do. We're athletic and we work out, and we're healthy people. And they
Right.
just model that behavior. Have you seen that at all? I know your kids are pretty young, but do they ever try to get in there with you?
Yeah, actually during quarantine for COVID, I had a little weight set here, and my daughter would come out there in the mornings and just kind of do a few workouts with me. I
That's
think that lasted
awesome.
like for a week maybe, and she
Yeah.
got tired of it though. Yeah, I can see that in them that they want to be active and do things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Will, any other fatherhood wisdom or things that you've learned along the way that you want to impart on the listeners or me as a young dad before we wrap it up here?
Uh, any other advice? No, I mean I think we basically covered most of the things that are important to me and that I think are important to still in my kids. And of course, I also try to teach them empathy and not to be judgmental,
Mm,
and all of these things are hard because it's naturally people are just judgmental. You see someone and you automatically judge them, and I try not to be that way, and I try to teach my kids to not be that way either. And so I try to make my kids better than me. So if I
mm,
find qualities that I don't like about myself, I will try to change that about myself and then teach them how to change that about themselves too, because those things, not only are they bad for everyone else around you, but they're bad for you too. Having those qualities really don't help you in life.
right.
Being judgmental of people and quick to judge a book by its cover, that's something that I really try to instill in them as well.
That's
And
awesome.
but as far as any other advice, I mean, buckle up, I guess.
Yeah. I love it, dude. Yeah,
it,
no.
it's a tough life for sure. You definitely is definitely a life-changing thing having kids, but it's the best thing in the world. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. I think that you left us with some great wisdom, and I appreciate it, man. I've enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate you sharing it and sharing some of your story and your background and what you've been through and what you learned along the way. So appreciate you. Big fan of the music, so I highly recommend. You know, pretty much anybody listening is going to be a dad or a parent at least, and I think that they will absolutely vibe with Best Parts of Me. But check out your other music too. It's fantastic stuff. So I highly recommend it. We'll have it all linked up in the show notes.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, Brad. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, you too, man.